Hello.
All right, we're back here on the stream. Matt Binder on the Progressive Victory YouTube channel. And I am here with, you all know her probably as Twitch streamer RiverboatJack.
That's me. Hello.
For people who don't know, which again, I feel so weird saying this with every guest who has like 1,000 times more subscribers than me, but let people know a little bit about yourself.
I'm a socialist. I am a trans lady. I use she, her pronouns. And I used to be a video game journalist, came up during Gamergate, wrote a bunch of stuff for Children's Miracle Network hospitals. I know that's weird. And then pivoted into streaming about politics. You know, the average route.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
into politics, yeah.
And now, Jack is joining me on this stream because she heard that we had a complete tangent talking about Star Wars, and so of course you had to jump in. But before we get to the culture war conversation,
yes.
I got to ask, what brings you out here for Jamaal Bowman? And again, I'm asking you as someone who is involved with Progressive Victory and helped to, put together this event. So tell me a little bit about it.
That's true. I probably should have mentioned I'm also involved with Progressive Victory. But yeah, I am heavily invested in showing that this place and this space can be capable of progressive change and like mobilizing ourselves beyond just talking about doing progressive politics and like critiquing conservative politics. I think we can do more. We can get out there. We can touch grass. And we can actually change the world for the better. And I think we can take all of these positive impulses we all seem to share and that bring us all together and actually do something useful with them outside of like, there are people who will be like, yes, just burn down the Walmart. And I'm like, yeah, you guys aren't actually doing anything useful. You're just saying that. You're virtue signaling. And I think we need to go out there and do tangible things that will move the bar towards a better future for all of us.
Right. I think you're onto something there. The corniness in me is thinking, touch grass. This is a organization that gets into grassroots canvassing. Maybe a potential touch grassroots slogan. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm picking up what you're putting down.
I'm a cornball.
You're putting it right down on the grass.
There you go.
Okay. God damn it.
So we are here, and so you explain why, in general, you think it's important to get involved on a real grassroots level.
Yeah.
Physically going out there and doing what you can. Why Jamaal Bowman?
Well, Jamaal Bowman is. I know my temptation is to like focus on how bad his opponent is, because he's really bad. But Jamaal Bowman actually cares and has put forward legislation that could genuinely make a huge impact on people's lives. Things like universal child care, like with a sliding scale for people to pay, and most families would wind up paying like, I think it was like $20 a month for like childcare, universal pre-K for schooling. There's just so many things that he puts forward that are just unambiguously good that we should do, and we could do if we had more progressives in office. And like one of the top ones that I really like, obviously Medicare for All, but there's also the Oligarch Act, where he proposed like taxing people who make anywhere from 1,000 to 1 million times the median income of America. And like that just seems like such a no-brainer to me. Like how can you even argue against that?
Right.
And because he's one of the few voices in Congress that are speaking out against like the genocide in Gaza, and like that's really important and really valuable. People need to be able to condemn that, and unfortunately in our current political system, that brings out the knives for you.
I mean, even just saying that is a huge deal. Like, you have a complete political media sphere that just basically won't admit to something that even the UN is saying this is what this is.
Yeah, it's really kind of like living in bizarro world, where like even the New York Times is starting to come around and like reporting like atrocities, and people in positions of power like George Latimer, Jamaal Bowman's opponent, like won't even say the word Palestinian. They won't even like negatively talk about Benjamin Netanyahu, and like it's ridiculous. It's beyond ridiculous. It's I think indicative of like a certain rot in our politics that the sooner we excise and like embrace more progressive values, the better for all of us.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, in terms of the broader political landscape, how are you feeling? How are you feeling? Outside this campaign, just more broad, we're in an election year. We got Biden, Trump in November.
I mean, Biden and Trump, it's not great. I don't feel great about that matchup. I feel like, honestly, like when it comes to our current political state, almost any other, even middle of the road Dem would have probably been a better choice to put up as a candidate. But we have to deal with what we're dealt with, and at least in some regards, like Biden has been okay when it comes to like labor. The NLRB has been a really big like source of victories under Biden. So that kind of maneuvering gives me hope. But there's also just so much messing around that gets me like, it's hard not to get a little doomer. But then I come to events like this and I help put together events like this, and I go, we're going to be okay. Because I see the enthusiasm that people have for making things better, and that's something that will never go away. And I think as long as we continue to foster that and continue to push people to make things better, I think eventually we'll get there.
Right. No, you're a lot more optimistic than, than me. No, but I agree. I agree.
I try and take hope in like what people are doing in real life outside their homes rather than what disaffected bureaucrats are doing in Washington. And I know that can be the disaffected bureaucrats wield a lot of power, but like you got to focus on what you can change for the moment. And if we do that enough, I think we can change the bigger stuff too.
Right. Yeah, it does feel like, while it may feel like in certain areas we are, falling backward, like just taking steps back or whatever, and things aren't so great, it does feel like that is specifically a specific sort of thing that our political landscape has put together. Like the people who are really politically active are what's sort of driving the discourse here.
Yeah.
And like regular everyday people are actually much more aligned with a lot of our politics, a lot of what we believe. A lot of people just, there are people who have, for example, this right-wing attack right now that they, at least culturally, they seem to be on the upward swing with, is attacking LGBTQ plus people.
Yes.
Most people do not agree with that.
Yep.
Maybe they're not LGBTQ plus activists. Maybe they're not even showing up for Pride Parade. But in their everyday life, they have a friend who is gay. Mm-hmm. They have a child who is trans or non-binary. And all they want is for LGBTQ plus people to be treated the same as everybody else.
Yeah, I recently had an interaction that like really exemplified kind of what I think you're getting at here, which is like there was a guy who on Twitter was responding to one of my posts, and like I'm openly like a trans woman, and it was like he just was like I don't agree with this and I don't support it. But I have a cousin who's gay, and I love them regardless of whether they're gay or they're asexual or whatever. And I'm like, well, that's like the most important part of like supporting like your LGBTQ friends and family.
Right.
Like he's like, but I don't want to go to Pride or wear the shirts. And I'm like, that's fine though. You don't have to.
We're going to force you. I'm sorry. We're coming to your house.
Make you go to the parade.
We're making a citizen's gay arrest, and we are forcing you to Pride. No, I mean
we
absolutely.
are forcing you to be fabulous.
Like this is also the thing with like politics. Like I don't care what's in a politician's heart.
Yeah, exactly.
I care about what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Like I mean, listen, there have been politicians who very clearly, probably throughout history, probably racist. I mean, not even
Oh,
probably,
yeah.
we know they are, but when push came to shove, they're the ones who ended up being like, this is the way things are going, I'm supporting this legislation.
Yeah.
That's what I care about. I care about what you put out to others. So if you don't agree with LGBTQ plus people, like you said, but you think they should be able to live their lives the way they want and they should get to have the same rights as everybody else, then you know what? You're in the
Yeah.
right place. I
Yeah.
mean,
Well, and that's the thing. I think, like you said, there are so many people where the well has been poisoned thoroughly, but even though that has been done by like tons and tons of like billionaire propaganda, you can dig down and you can find like these issues where like fundamentally like the material conditions that people find themselves in are dictating kind of what they actually believe. Like, you might find like a lot of people who are like, I hate socialism, but then they're like, but I really want to be able to go to the doctor and not die under medical debt. Like, and at the end of the day, like that I think wins out over any amount of propaganda because that's what they have to deal with. They're the ones who have to at the end of the day deal with like a parent like being ejected from a hospital because they don't have insurance, and like those things I think add up and make our like more progressive positions in a way almost inevitable. Like it's that's one of the things where like I think we will win eventually. It might not be soon, but I think it is an inevitable force.
right. I mean, messaging's like what you're basically saying is messaging's a huge part of that. Like, it's important to basically meet people where they are
Yeah.
and discuss things in a way that they understand. And I think that's what's important to do things like this, because a major part of politics in general is meeting people. And if you get a knock on your door and there's someone there ready to talk with you,
Yep.
you're going to sort of be moved by that more than any ad you see, any online post you see, because a real life person spoke to you and had a human interaction with you.
Yeah, it takes I think there's like an animal part of our brain where we respond to someone who took the time and effort to come to us physically to let us know that this is an issue that is important. And like we recognize that on some level. I think everybody does. And yeah, I just think that like this is where like the power of canvassing is, and I also think that this is where the power of letting people know that better is possible. So many people get beaten over the head to believe that it's not possible to make things better, to believe that they don't have the power to change things, when in reality changing something can be as simple as like knocking on a door to canvass, phone banking to tell someone, or it can really be that that big of a game changer. Like we currently have like a small army of volunteers going door to door and like telling people how important it is to get involved in this Bowman race. And they might talk to one person at the door, but we know statistically, like if that one person is receptive to that message, like the rest of the household is likely to vote for Bowman. Like because that connection is so important, and because letting them know that this is an important issue that we can change really does make a difference. And I think maybe this is me being naive and optimistic, but I think if more people knew how big of an impact they could have, more people would get involved.
Right. Absolutely. I think that's a great point. I mean, really, it shows people that it really, this is how people say every vote counts. Every single thing you do to get that vote counts as
Yep.
well. So I guess we could move a little bit more broadly now outside of organizing, because I know you wanted to talk about Star Wars. What is your feeling though about how I talked about how it does feel like there is a rightward trend right now. We're in this moment where the right is having a resurgence, which isn't out of the blue. We've seen this before.
Yeah.
And we've come back from it before. So it's not like anyone who's feeling like, oh, it's over, it's done. No, that's not the case. Things ebb and flow. That's how it works. But there's this sort of rightward trend with the culture, pop culture.
Yes.
And that does affect how people look at politics. Unfortunately, I don't think it should. And people who are like, really politically active probably try to distance themselves from that. But I actually think that's a mistake. I think they do influence each other. So what is your sense of that? Like these sort of pop cultural issues where movies or TV shows are failing because they're more representative now, and people don't want that. People don't want that. Everyone wants their Jedi to be straight white men.
I think that a lot of it is conservatism attempting to co-opt the failures of capital, or like the maybe if not the failures of capital, like the jankiness of capital trying to co-opt other things. Because really, at the end of the day, what they're pointing to when there's women, there's gays, there's transes. Really, what they're pointing to is like executives and CEOs and marketing people pointing out that like if they have a more diverse product, they can sell that product to more people. And they're not doing it out of any loyalty to like the gays. There's not like a secret cabal here, manufacturing this. And I know that there are some conservatives out there that do believe there is a secret cabal, but like at the end of the day, it's just the profit motive. And so a lot of how I view a lot of this conservative backlash is just conservatives identifying weird things about capitalism and trying to attribute it to nebulous, cultural issues to divert attention away from the fundamental issue, which is capital.
Right. Basically, their own pet peeves.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a perfect explanation of what's going on. That is what's happening. They are unable to give political answers to political questions. So they bring in pop cultural issues and they pervert them and use them to their own advantage. And those are a lot easier to do that with than actual policy, because policy begets results.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, right? And they would rather talk about pop culture than they would about like you said, policy. Like it's an attempt to do it in a more removed way by focusing on pop culture, but at the end of the day, it's because they're running away from the fundamental issue that pervades all of it, which is capital. Like they just don't want to talk about it because at the end of the day, their bills are paid by billionaires, and they don't want to really reckon with the fact that like that might be fundamentally part of the problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, I mean, and also even the ones who aren't particularly funded specifically by billionaires, there's an audience capture there.
Yes.
Where they've put together this audience of fervent right-wingers, and they need to speak to those people in order to get their super chats, in order to get their Patreon donations or whatever. And so they feel beholden to their audience. I'm not saying they don't agree with their audience, but their audience controls what they choose to cover and how they cover it.
Yeah. And I think there's also like a demographic of non-conservatives that consume that content, but it's largely like young people, like kids who are 12 to 16 years old who just like Star Wars, and they stumble across this rabbit hole, and they wind up not really out of like malice coming to these same conclusions, but more so like they just don't really have an ideology prior to that to like explain any of this.
I didn't like that Star Wars movie, but I don't quite know why I didn't like it. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna search on YouTube for some commentators. They assume they're gonna come across like a Star Wars aficionado site, but YouTube being YouTube suggests Ben Shapiro or Matt Walsh or someone to them, and they watch that take without realizing they are consuming political content.
Yep.
And they go, oh, that's why I didn't like that Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And suddenly Kathleen Kennedy is like this big evil entity who has ruined Star Wars because she has an agenda to put women and like minorities in films.
I mean, she has an agenda. It's to make as much money as possible.
Right.
Right.
And that's one of the other things. Like, so many people are like, "Go woke, go broke" as like a tagline for these movies. Like, they've made like 4 or 5 times, maybe 3 times what they paid for the entire Star Wars franchise. They've made like billions of dollars. It's not an issue.
You can't use that with Disney.
No.
Like, it's just not, like, even when Disney fails, it's just because their movie didn't do as good as they had hoped for or expected.
Yeah.
Every Disney movie still makes hundreds of millions of dollars hand over fist. Like, it is insane.
Yeah.
Like, there's no such thing as go woke, go broke. If an asteroid was to hit this Earth and everything was destroyed, there would be 2 things left: cockroaches and Mickey Mouse. I mean, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, for real. Yeah. Like, it's really, I feel a lot of pity for people who kind of get trapped in this conservative net of explanations, because it really is kind of like a gish gallop. They just throw everything at you, and whatever sticks. You know, and so you get like a lot of these kids coming up who just don't really have explanations for things. They just are really angry, and then it like kind of meshes with why it's hard for them to date, and like it all gets like glommed together into like, oh, you know, suddenly now you're watching like Andrew Tate because like, you know, Candace Owens, you know, you stumbled into her and she's propping up Andrew Tate or something like that. You know, this pipeline is very real, and it's been something I've seen play out. I was a game journalist during Gamergate, so like, really, to me, this is like seeing just like another cycle of that.
Right. And it's funny that you bring up Gamergate, a topic that I very much have history with as well. But the reason I say it's funny is because we are actually literally seeing a resurgence where a particular Gamergate adjacent guy, this, I forgot his name, like Grums or something like that.
Oh yeah, no, Grums, yeah.
He is having his big moment.
Yep.
Where he has become like the new face of like the angry conservative, quote unquote, gamer.
Yeah.
And it's like, even on that, we're sort of seeing this right-wing resurgence, where like video games are doing bad because they went woke. And I'm looking at these games where they went bad because they went woke, and it's like, woke means like there's a historical figure, a black samurai who actually existed in history, is in a video game now. That's what go woke means. I mean, we know that's what conservatives mean when they say it.
Yeah, like it really has become like that blatant. Like, oh, there's a black character, there's a woman, there is like a homosexual, there's a trans person, and like, it doesn't matter what the context is. It doesn't matter that in the context of like that Black Samurai video game, it's about like time traveling through genetic memory and like an eternal war between like 2 secret factions that have existed, descended from aliens. Like, it doesn't matter that that's the context, and like, you're taking away from this that like, oh, it's
not realistic enough. It's Black Samurai.
It's crazy that there's a Black Samurai in this time travel alien game. Yeah, let's ignore the fact that in one of the games, like, Leonardo da Vinci made you like assassin weapons. You know, like, it's just become a shorthand for complaining about like the presence of minorities, where maybe in the past, and I'm just granting maybe, that character would have been like just white, like all the characters would have been white, because like, having covered video games for a long time, they're still really white. Most of the roles are still white dudes, and it's not really, it's gotten a little bit better, but like that little bit better is perceived as like a huge cultural attack.
Right. Right. I mean, I will say it does seem very specific to what the intended audience is for a game or even a movie or TV show. Like, I would say I don't play too many video games nowadays, but I do play Fortnite with my son a lot. That's our game of choice.
That's cute.
But like, there's no this conversation, and Fortnite's like probably the most popular game imaginable right
yeah.
now. But there are no conversations about, and Fortnite has women characters, black characters. These conversations aren't happening around that, and that's because like young kids are playing it and they don't fucking care. They just don't care about these things, and not because like it doesn't mean anything to them. No, it's a non-issue to them because it's normal for them to see black people and girls doing things that they do because that is their experience in real life too.
Yeah, like a lot of kids are growing up and like their parents are gay or they have like gay friends and like it's a non-issue as opposed to like I think when you and I grew up like I don't know about you. I
grew up in New York City, so
okay. I grew up in the Midwest and like I didn't know any gay people or at least growing up I didn't think I knew any gay people and then like it turned out like actually there's one gay kid in my high school. Oh wait, now it's 10 years later. There was actually like 50 gay kids at my high school and oh wait, I'm gay. Like it's become now this next generation they're just people. It's not like exceptional for like there to be a gay person or a trans person or like a black person. Like it's normal and I like that. That's good. It's healthy.
It's not even just that, it's reality. Mm-hmm. Like that's the thing, like they want to live in a reality that maybe once existed for them, but it no longer exists today. Yeah. I'm not saying everywhere is like this, but clearly the people who are making this content are whether it be a game or a show, they're basing it on their lived experiences, even when it is fictional or even when it's sci-fi.
Yeah.
It's still seeped in a point they want to make through a lived experience.
Yeah.
And that's just representative of reality.
Yeah, it's and to that point, like that's why earlier I mentioned like made those comments about like inevitability of like kind of a more progressive position because like that's where we're at. Reality is more progressive than where conservatives want it to be, and it requires building like an entire conservative bubble to exist in for now and all time. Because if it ever gets ruptured, the entire thing bursts.
Right. And the funny thing you say that is that I just saw a story today, or yesterday, just over the past 24 hours I saw a story of conservatives complaining that Wikipedia has gone woke. And listen, I could tell you from experience of talking with Wikipedia editors, one great Wikipedia editor, Molly White, is a great cryptocurrency critic. I interviewed her on my show numerous times. Wikipedia editors take their job super seriously. They don't get paid. To them, they are putting something out there that is truly important to history.
Yeah.
It is a resource that everybody uses. If you think Wikipedia is going woke, it's because it reflects reality. It reflects facts.
Yes.
And that must mean that you think that reality and facts are woke. Sure. And it's really that simple. Like, I mean, I saw a story. I don't know if it was related to the conservatives' criticisms. I didn't get to read the entire thing when I was traveling here, but Wikipedia has decided that they can't use the ADL anymore.
Oh yeah.
In their entries related to anti-Semitism, because the ADL is conflating events, anti-Semitic events, with anti-Zionist or even Zionist critiques.
Yeah.
And that is truly harmful in every which way. And the Wikipedia editors or board, or whoever decided this, completely are well within their right, because it is truly dangerous to conflate those two.
Yeah.
Because it demeans actual anti-Semitism.
Well, and it, frankly, I think it diminishes what Judaism is. Like, Judaism isn't a state.
Right.
It's an idea, it's a belief system, and like to conflate those two things and say that people of this system must therefore support this state, I think that that's a very dangerous and I think that's a very dangerous thing to do for a whole host of reasons.
Right. I mean, I've basically, my career has been covering the far right, white supremacists, neo-Nazis, reactionary groups. I am well versed in and experiencing it myself as someone who has an ethnic Jewish background. I have been a target of multiple different people I've covered over the years. So I fully understand what it's like and what anti-Semitism and anti-Muslim and anti-immigrant and xenophobic and anti-black, anti-Latino, all these different forms of racism and sexism and misogyny and anti-LGBTQ rhetoric. I know what it looks like.
Yep.
And the idea for an organization that's respected to conflate those things when one side is oftentimes those groups that attack Zionist critique or anti-Zionism are the groups that align with those spreading anti-Semitism.
Yes.
It is they full-on align, ready to handshake and let bygones be bygones. The far-right Zionists, far-right in Israel, with fascists globally.
Yes.
I mean, we see it with Milei in Argentina.
Yep.
We see it with Trump here in the U.S. and the Republican Party in the U.S. We saw it with Bolsonaro in Brazil. We see it with Orban in Hungary.
Yep.
This is a global project where the far right has aligned with Israel because Israel, as it is today, is run by a far right government, and they've been so for so long that the country as a whole is aligned with these fascists. Not everybody, obviously, but
the dominant political
dominant
force.
Political force. Yes.
Yeah, it's it is worrisome, but I think at the end of the day, and very dangerous, it's unsustainable. Like, that level of hatred is not something that can win. And I think that the path forward is stuff like this, connecting with our communities, connecting with people who are outside of our bubbles, connecting with people who are different from us, who have different beliefs, but we're all united by like this fundamental need to coexist with each other. And
it's not even just coexist. It's truly fighting for the same ideals.
Yeah.
Whether you are Christian, Jewish, Muslim, non-believer, Hindu, Buddhist, whatever. And it's great to be here, and thank you so much for everything you've done to first of all invite me and bring me on board, but for everything else that you've put together.
Well, it's been a delight talking with you.
RiverboatJack, everybody, and it almost feels weird to not end this with me rating you on Twitch.
Well, I'm sure we'll do this again sometime.
Awesome, absolutely.
All right, thank you, Matt Binder.
Thank you. And we're going to take another short break, and we'll be back in a little bit.